Hello, friends. My name is Beth Ball of D&D Duet and Grove Guardian Press, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why Land of Vampires is so important to us. So, as you may or may not know, we are running a Kickstarter right now for the first time ever for the Land of Vampires campaign, and we've released part one. We'll also be doing a part two, which will be in addition to the campaign. And this is the first time that we've done something of this size, so a full length campaign in print. And it's been such a cool experience so far. We've never done a project of this size or kind of gravity before, and we've learned a lot along the way. And I don't know, I wanted to kind of share why this campaign is so meaningful for us and go ahead and ask you to join us in this next phase of our D&D Duet adventure. And so many of you are familiar with our story, especially if you've been around D&D Duet for any length of time. You know that Jonathan asked me to play with him, asked me for a year to play D&D with him before I finally agreed. And that him creating a world and characters just for me expressed love and thoughtfulness in a way that I found to be so meaningful that I decided to give D&D a try and ended up finding something that I absolutely love and that we love doing together. And I mean, it is almost Valentine's Day, so we can let the cheesiness of games and stories and a way of hanging out with one another that captures hearts and imagination, we can just let those things fly, right? It's okay to be cheesy and romantic, especially here and especially right now. But we don't always mention as we're telling this story, it depends a little bit on how much time we have and which kind of iteration of it is most helpful, is that before we played in our duet together, I participated in one group game. For that game, I played in other group games. It was just before we started our duet. I played a time, and for that group game, I created my first ever D&D character. Her name was Briseras Ravisthinia. She had a wolf companion named Vera, and she was a level 3 ranger. And more than I had any way of understanding at the time, Briseras, Vera, and this game would go on to change my life. That session was the first time that Jonathan had ever DM'd, which is part of how he convinced me to play. So I'll just kind of put that roundabout in your ear in case you are in the process of trying to get a friend or partner to play with you. That was part of what convinced me to at least give it a try. I knew he would be new. The two friends he played with who would be there for that session, they had a group of four, but they would be understanding, I knew, of him being brand new, but mostly if I got stuck, I wouldn't be bothering someone that I only knew kind of well at the time. It would be, I knew he would help me. And it's still really special to me that I got to be there for it because he's such an incredible storyteller and dungeon master or game master. So Briseras and I went on this adventure. It was the Wolves of Wesson or something. I don't know. The Wolves of something. I'll put it in the description once he can remind me of what it's called. When our duet game started, I played Lady Eliath Amastasia and the adventure that would later become First Blush, which is available on DM's Guild and is part of the Crystal and Curse trilogy. And that campaign would later turn into my epic fantasy series, Age of Azuria. Briseras is in that series too, if you were curious. Several months into Eliath's adventures, we hit a spot where I could bring in a secondary PC. And by secondary PC, I don't mean an adventuring companion or a sidekick. I mean more specifically someone who is almost akin in importance to the player as the PC, so as the main PC. And so in this case, I can't remember if Briseras came back in this instance because Jonathan and I switched GM and player roles, which is something that we really encourage you to do at least occasionally in your duet game. But anyway, that PC was Briseras. We hit a spot where we needed to pause in our main game, and this is something that has become more and more familiar over the years. And Jonathan was getting ready to run Curse of Strahd for the D&D club at his school. And so he asked me if I would bring in Briseras to run through Death House with him while he got accustomed to that campaign. As has also become extremely familiar for us over the last few years, once we completed that Death House chapter and we're trying to follow the campaign text as written, our duet game pretty much immediately took a sharp divergent turn away from the adventure as written, and what we ended up with would later become Land of Vampires. I've been searching for the words for what makes Steymhorod, the world of Land of Vampires, so special to me. I think part of it is that it's both familiar and surprising. The setting has gothic elements, but is also not cheesy. In a movie, I would call it like campy, like Underland or Van Helsing. Not Underland. Anyway, I'll put that series that I mean. Underland is something else. Something like Van Helsing. Each of which has its fair share of camp alongside intriguing characters and an immersive, captivating world. Lord Drago, who takes an interest in the PC almost as soon as they arrive in Steymhorod, surprised me as a character by not immediately being offended that I, a vampire huntress, was there to kill vampires. As the first vampire to ever exist and the blood father of every single subsequent vampire, he, of course, has a unique take on his progeny, but as was even more compelling in a duet game, he had a unique fascination with me and my character as well. And if that's not gripping, then I don't know what is. Briseras is a much more morally gray character than my other PCs, and I think that works really well for the Land of Vampires campaign. She's also a little bit antisocial, as we might expect someone who is prone to violence, or I'm sorry, as we might expect from someone who is prone to violence. One of the things that makes her so fun is that she's extremely action driven. And so, if in doubt, my character, Eliath, might try to make friends, or at least try to make sure she understands the situation before blazing forward. Briseras is going to start stabbing people or firing arrows or both. She's not going to just kind of wait around and make sure. If in doubt, she moves, she takes action. That meant that sessions with her would absolutely fly. And so what would have taken another character half an hour of RP to work up to combat-wise, Briseras would have already been several rounds in facing the boss. And she just moved so quickly. This is how we accidentally burned down the Ring of Light in our version of the Land of Vampires campaign. We didn't mean to, but that's what happened. But what I came to learn about her as we played through, and as the campaign, story, and world helped me see and learn about her, was how deep set her emotions are. She's definitely my character with the greatest emotional depth and the one who's the most riddled with pain, but you wouldn't know that from the surface, and she would try very hard to make sure that actually no one knew that about her, as I don't even know that that's something that she knows or would say about herself. Her relationships with her companions are complex as well. We ended up with a delightfully confusing love triangle between Briseras, Lord Drago, and one of her companions, who's both the person who gets on her nerves the fastest and her best friend in the whole wide world. I had a pretty evolved and rather dark backstory for Briseras when our game began, and Jonathan still found ways that changed the world, changed the course of our game, of bringing new things into her backstory, and then also the future of the campaign as we went along. Another thing I love about the world and story setup for Land of Vampires is that Steymhorod has been waiting for the PC. They're not invading and inserting themselves into a place where they don't belong. By arriving, they're stepping into their fate, and they are the change catalyst in a land that's been stagnant for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We started releasing the campaign in chapters on Patreon, and even released those chapters as posts on our blog, D&D Duet. We wanted to try out a serialized campaign similar to serial fiction. This has allowed us to receive lots of feedback on the campaign over the years. It let us receive feedback on characters and the storyline as well, and it's turned into something we're incredibly proud of. I keep or I kept delaying. I have been delaying for some time now on taking the next steps with the campaign, with this Kickstarter that would allow us to do a print run and stock print editions, expanding our business model and offerings, because I just didn't feel ready. The last few years have been hard on all of us, I know, and for me and Jonathan, the period from late 2020 to even the beginning of this year has been filled with loss after loss in our family. We've had some big milestones too that are fun and exciting. I finished my PhD. Jonathan is coming up on a big milestone where he is going to be moving up, getting a promotion in the school system that we're really excited about. And some of those things between grief and and my dissertation have pulled us away from spending as much time designing tabletop adventures as we want to be. And D&D Duet turned 5 at the beginning of this year, which I can hardly believe. It's so exciting. But that being said, we still have really big plans for the future of duet gaming, for the stories that we want to bring to you and to your gaming table. And that's why I went ahead and pushed myself with creating the Kickstarter, with not delaying anymore. The campaign is ready. The only thing that we've been waiting on has been me getting over feeling nervous about myself being ready, not so much the adventure. It's been kind of scary to stride out onto what feels like a stage in tabletop gaming spaces and be like, hey, we made a cool thing. Do you want to join us and pledge to receive it when it's ready to ship to you? And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is a bigger project than we've ever attempted before. And there are more moving pieces with it and things outside of our control. We haven't tried to manage logistics like shipping before. And so all of those were like these just little pieces that we wanted to make sure we had lined up and ready and in place before we move forward. But the experience of sharing this Kickstarter has been such a great reminder to me for why we started D&D Duet in the first place. We wanted to help people just like you create a whole world just for two, to provide adventures and advice for playing one-on-one with the people you care about, or with random people that you meet online, whichever version of that makes you the happiest, or a combination of both. I get emails from fellow duet gamers all the time, especially those who are new to one-on-one, asking if it's normal to start RPing with their partner. And these emails always make me smile. I don't know if it's normal across all 5e gaming spaces of everyone who plays D&D, but in our community, the answer to that question for the people that we write for the people we have in mind as we're designing and putting everything together is overwhelmingly yes. At the end of the day, that's why Land of Vampires is so special and so important to us. It's a campaign that we crafted to support you in the storytelling at your table. It's one that we designed so that you wouldn't have to immediately abandon the campaign text or force the character back onto a particular path. We've played through all the pieces. We've talked to we've talked to lots of people who've played through the pieces as well. We know where you might get stuck. We've anticipated where your PC might have difficulty in deciding on a path forward, and have designed ways to help you guide them through that without breaking the story, without breaking the kind of immersion in the story in that moment if you don't want to. We've especially worked on helping the PC feel like the hero that they are throughout, that they're the ones driving the story. Vampire hunting is exhilarating, as is befriending fae, as is helping undead creatures work through unresolved trauma. And you can do all of that and more in this campaign, and we will be here to help you every step of the way. If you haven't pledged to our Kickstarter yet and you would like to embark on your journey into Steymhorod, please click the link in the description or look for Grove Guardian Press on Kickstarter and you'll find us in our campaign. We're so excited for where this adventure will take you, and here's to this campaign being the first of many more to come.